Scuderia Ferrari marked the return of the Chinese Grand Prix to the 2024 Formula One calendar, with a fourth and a fifth place courtesy of Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. On the plus side, this means a total of 31 points in the bag for the Italian side, including those from the sprint race, which is the second highest total behind Red Bull. It was always going to be about trying to make up places after a difficult qualifying, but for the first time this season, neither driver made it to the podium. The Chinese Grand Prix was characterized by cloudy skies and track temperatures around 31 degrees Celsius, about 3 degrees higher than during yesterday morning's sprint race at the 5.451-kilometer Shanghai International Circuit. The behavior of the medium C3 compound, at least according to our predictions, was more or less as expected and in line with observations made in a previous video on Saturday after qualifying. However, in some cases, what was surprising was the performance of various teams when they switched to the hard C2 tires. Some teams found themselves performing better, while others struggled a bit more, including Ferrari. Before delving into our analysis, let's recap the tactics used today and therefore make a summary of the strategies seen in the Chinese Grand Prix. A two-stop race was predicted in Shanghai, and in the end, the overall picture was in line with expectations. The positive surprise came from Ferrari, capable of managing a safe one-stop strategy with Charles Leclerc and successfully executing it with Carlos Sainz, greatly aided by the two safety car periods. In a quick summary, we had Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, and Carlos Sainz opting for the single medium hard stop strategy. Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez, Nico Hülkenberg, and Esteban Ocon went for the medium hard two-stop strategy, which we considered the fastest. Kevin Magnussen chose a similar hard medium strategy. Then we note George Russell, Oscar Piastri, and Alexander Albon's medium hard solutions. Lewis Hamilton also made it into the top 10 with a soft, medium hard strategy, starting from 18th position, a strategy also executed by Logan Sargent. Moving on from the two-stop strategies, we have the more debatable three-stop strategies of Fernando Alonso, medium, hard, soft, medium, Pierre Gasly, medium, hard, medium, Guan Yu, medium, hard, soft, and Lance Stroll, who had to make 4 stops, soft, medium, hard. Among these, the only one we can understand is Lance Stroll's, as the Aston Martin driver was in fact forced to return to the pits after contact with Daniel Ricciardo. The Chinese Grand Prix was also marked by the retirements of Daniel Ricciardo, Yuki Tsunoda, and Valtteri Bottas. Unfortunately, Ferrari's performance was far below expectations both in the qualifying session and in the race. At the end of the Chinese Grand Prix, there was a noticeable difference in views between Charles Leclerc and Ferrari team principal Fred Vasseur. The driver stated that missing the podium was due to a lack of pace on the hard tires, while the French manager primarily blamed yesterday's performance in qualifying. Between the two, Charles Leclerc's view seems more accurate. It's true that the Monegasque driver started 6th and Carlos Sainz 7th, and to make matters even worse, neither Ferrari driver got a good start, both of them being overtaken by George Russell in turn 1, a situation which further complicated the comeback. At the same time, it should be pointed out that after the safety car, the opportunities to aim for the podium seemed to be all there. Lando Norris was 2nd on fresh hard tires, Charles Leclerc 3rd on the same strategy. Sergio Perez was 4th, also on hard tires. It was almost a given that the Mexican would overtake Charles Leclerc in a few laps. What was not predictable until that moment was Lando Norris being able to keep a faster pace than the Red Bull driver, securing the second final position with a gap of almost 7 seconds. Looking at the situation from this perspective, it's not so much Ferrari that was disappointing, but rather McLaren that was surprisingly strong at the Shanghai International Circuit. However, we must also be objective. We are in the 5th race of the 2024 Formula One season, and from a team like the Prancing Horse, which has always been on the podium in previous races, progress is expected, not steps backward. The tire management was certainly positive, especially with Charles Leclerc. Despite the fact that the pace was not competitive enough to fight for the top 3, it was stable enough to allow Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz to climb from the 6th to 7th starting positions to the 4th of 5 final positions. Both cars still finished within the top 5. But overall, it is a disappointing result for Scuderia Ferrari, which has shown potential to consistently finish 3rd and 4th behind Red Bull. However, something didn't work as usual this weekend in China, and the prancing horse couldn't extract the maximum potential from the hard tires, something McLaren, especially with Lando Norris, managed to do excellently. Let's move on and focus on Aston Martin's race for Fernando Alonso, which was far from perfect. With only one set of hard tires available, the team was in fact put in a difficult situation when the safety car came out at that specific moment, forcing them to pit and put on the soft C4 tires on the Spanish driver with still 33 laps to go until the checkered flag. At that moment, his hard tires were 12 laps old, and continuing with that set, from 4th position ahead of Charles Leclerc, lap 22, perhaps would have put him in a better position to attack George Russell's position, if not even the position of Carlos Sainz in the final laps of the Chinese Grand Prix. The former Ferrari driver would still have had to pit for mediums a few laps from the end. Strategies have to be reviewed by Aston Martin. Fernando is Fernando, and he remains one of the best drivers on the grid even at this age, but a little help from the team now and then wouldn't be unwelcome. Lando Norris managed the hard tires impressively, against all expectations, perhaps even his own. The pace was never enough to challenge Max Verstappen, but at times it was very close to the lap time set by the Dutchman. His management was certainly better than Sergio Perez's. It's hard to say if what we saw in China is a real improvement or just a track-specific enhancement. Oscar Piastri didn't perform as well. Everything remains to be verified. The slow corners of the Shanghai circuit certainly played a role. Confirming this performance in Miami will be challenging. Shall we also talk about Lewis Hamilton's race? Okay, despite the British driver claiming to have a slow race car compared to his rivals, the Mercedes is still a top 10 contender. Despite starting from P18, he still managed to reach and secure 9th place behind Oscar Piastri. Lewis Hamilton's turning point came on lap 22 when he decided to pit along with Charles Leclerc during the virtual safety car period. This put him in a position to make the most of subsequent pit stops by others and climb from 17th to 11th position. Mercedes certainly can't celebrate a 6th and 9th position, but considering the state it was in after the results in qualifying, we can say they extracted the maximum from this weekend. At the moment, McLaren and Ferrari are ahead. The battle for the Germans is against Aston Martin, and at least for today the goal was achieved, but updates are needed. The World Championship resumes in a fortnight's time with the 6th round in Miami, the last race before the start of the European leg of the season. What will be essential for the Maranello is the upcoming upgrades, as they will define the direction Ferrari will take for the next part of the 2024 Formula One Championship. While the major aerodynamic package is expected for the Imola weekend in Italy, Ferrari team principal Fred Vasseur confirmed that his team will do everything possible to bring some updates for the Miami Grand Prix, aware that the Italian side took a step backwards in the Chinese weekend.